Welcome back to another special episode of Uptown Alley Fashion with your boy CJackCity. We got our first ever interview for Uptown Alley Fashion. I'm here with the Miss T with Tia.
Hello, everybody.
So Miss Tia, tell us about yourself.
All right, well, my name is Tia, but everybody calls me T with Tia. And I am a blogger. I'm also an influencer and a content creator. I've been blogging since 2018.
Okay.
Yeah, and it wasn't something that I initially wanted to do. So it's pretty interesting, actually, how it all came about. So
Tia, where you from?
I'm actually from Durham, North Carolina, Bull City.
Okay. All right, it's on the south. So
born and raised.
Absolutely. I got a family in North Carolina. I think we all do. What are some of the biggest stories that you covered before?
Well, I would have to say, I typically like to cover people who have a lot of drama surrounding them. So I definitely keep up with Blueface and Shawn. They always go viral. Anytime I post them, it's always something with them.
Absolutely.
I definitely like to keep up with a lot of Beyonce content.
Always.
Yeah. So it's just like literally like I try to focus mainly on people who I know will get the engagement going. And definitely as far as like the most consistent story that I've been covering for the last 3 years would be the Tory and Megan situation. So that's been that's actually an understatement. Crazy is probably an understatement. It's been a lot going on with that. And definitely like most recently I had a tweet that I tweeted right now is over 8 million views. I had broke the information that Tory called Megan Cuniff a googly-eyed bitch right after his bail got denied. He stood up, he smiled, and he called her a googly-eyed bitch to her face.
Who is Megan Cuniff?
Well, I mean, if you leave it up to me, I would say she's a nobody. But if you leave it up to the people, they have deemed her Megan the reporter. But she's been covering the case, and she's been the go-to source for pretty much all the blogs. Me and Megan Cuniff don't technically see eye to eye. She tries to discredit me a lot. And just like even with the tweet, I was the first person to put that out, and then she wrote an article about it, and she never likes to give me credit by name. So she tries to find like little ways to like, throw jabs or whatever. Just like in the article, she called me Elaine's loyalist.
Well, it seems like you do got a lot of information on this. So let's get back to you or who you are. How did you get started doing this?
Pretty funny. Well, it's not really a funny story, but my Facebook friends, I'm always known for like getting the conversation started. Okay. People say I'm a troll. I don't think I'm a troll. I think I just being myself. But it's like, hey, have you ever thought about blogging? I was like, no, absolutely not. Like, it's not my interest. Don't want to do it. I have literally no background in journalism at all. I have a bachelor's in education and a master's in criminal justice. I used to be a teacher. So it was just completely random. So my Facebook friends was like, start a blog. And I said, well, if y'all name it, I'll start it. And it was like, all right, boom, T with Tia.
Yeah, that's always how it goes. I got on here because of Mike. I ain't say I was going to be on no show. Mike
right,
said, hey,
so it's just like, sometimes some people see the vision before you do.
I didn't know I can do this.
Me either. Like, everything that I do is self-taught. Like, I literally knew nothing. I just knew how to post on Facebook.
Absolutely.
And my very first logo was, do you remember the little Snapchat little Bitmoji thingies? That was my first logo, and then I moved on to the iPhone emoji. It was just very ghetto looking. So as I go back and look at my first couple of posts, I'm like, yeah, this is trash. But then I started to invest in myself.
Okay.
And then as I started to invest, I was like, okay, I need to start teaching myself how to do more. So I learned how to edit. Like, I literally didn't know how to do any of those things. So I pretty much run everything by myself. But my Facebook friends, they got it going.
So your Facebook friends pretty much gassed you up.
They did.
And now you teach
And I said, so they came up with a bunch of names. I cannot remember who it was, but I did go back and make a post to thank them because I went back and tried to see who came up with the name, but I don't know off the top of my head right now. But yeah, so that's how that came about.
That's good. That's good. So listen, now it brings me to this point. You going to these back and forth with Miss Megan Cuniff. You've been following this Tory and Meg case, which, by the way, Uptown Alley Fashion, we are not supporting no sides. There's no biasness here. We are just literally doing an interview on it because it's a very intriguing case of what's going on. People don't think Tory did it. People think Megan lying. A lot of people think Tory did do it and he's lying. So we have a person here, Miss Tia, that has a lot of information.
Well, first, let me be clear. Tea with Tia does have a bias, and I am 100% Team Tory. Tory is innocent, free that black man. So yes, I had to make that very clear.
Okay. It's an overall bad situation on both sides, just for black people in general. It's a very embarrassing situation.
Yeah, and with the whole thing about the bias, that is a big part of how I lost a lot of followers.
Okay.
I was still fair on how I reported on the case because I still had a job to do. So I still reported it fairly, but everybody was very aware that I was, Team Tory. But I have my reasons why I support Tory. It's not just a delusion. I literally think with logic, and I feel like a lot of people throughout this case, they weren't thinking logically. They kind of picked a side based on who was their favorite celebrity.
That tend to happens a lot.
Yeah, and to be honest, I was a Megan fan. Like, I was a Megan fan when it first all happened.
I think we all were. We still have our reservations on what's going on. I mean, it's an unfortunate situation. We don't have no answers for anything, honestly. You mentioned you lost a lot of followers. You actually gained a follower from Uptown Alley Fashion because of good work you've been doing.
Well, I appreciate that, actually, because it wasn't always, easy or peaches and cream, to be honest. I know I mentioned that I said I've been blogging since 2018, but I actually started in 2016, and I gave up because you're a content creator, so you kind of understand what starting from the beginning. It was very frustrating where I'm putting the time in to put the content out, but it's either getting no views, no likes, no comments, and it's just very discouraging, especially when you're like, okay, well, I think it's good. Obviously, nobody else does because they're not, But I have some other people who do this, and they pretty much was like, don't give up on it. You got to be consistent. But that went in one ear and out the other because I was just like, nah, forget this. So I quit. I gave up. And it was just like, some of my friends were like, no, you should pick it back up. So I came back in 2018 and I had got a viral post on Facebook. This is when I was only using Facebook. I had got a viral post on Facebook and it was literally all she wrote from there. It just took off and I kept growing. Like I said, I invested in myself, so I made the brand better. And then my brand really started picking up when I just went out on a limb and just, I was like, when COVID hit, everybody was at home and, everybody was on Instagram Live. So I took advantage of that and was like, let me see if I can just try to do interviews. Because I kind of have anxiety, and I really don't like being on camera. Right. So I was like, let me just try. So I just started reaching out and I was getting interviews I didn't think I could get. Are you familiar with the show Power? Hey, I just gotta ask, but we got some people who don't watch Power. But I would say that those are some of my biggest interviews. I had I'm gonna say his show name, Cooper Sacks, but his name is Shane Johnson. Shout out to Shane, he's a great person.
Cooper was an asshole.
But he was my favorite character. Yes, wow. I love. To me, he was a nemesis. I love.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just that person who liked the villain.
Okay,
yeah, I root for the villain.
Because he's damn sure.
And I feel like he bring a lot of comedic relief. But I had reached out to him. He was like, hey, I know you. I know your stuff. And I was just like, what? So that was, so I started interviewing pretty much the whole cast. Carol Baskin was another big one that I did.
That's good. That's good right there.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's pretty much how I got my brand to grow. Just starting to just be out there more and being more consistent too. So now I post regularly, daily, 10 times a day, and I actually have a team that helps me as well.
Absolutely.
And they're my college friends.
Absolutely. You can't get it done without a solid team. Ain't that right, Uptown Alley Fashion?
Yeah. Gotta have that team. So yeah. And also right before, because I did have the viral post when I took off, and I felt kind of guilty for my next biggest, my biggest viral post. I think it was I had it literally had almost 2 million shares.
Oh, wow.
And this is when Kobe died. And I just, and it was kind of hard for me to celebrate that milestone. It was very terrible. But like 2020 was literally the year where I just started like taking off, and it was just like, wow. So that after that post, that really like solidified, like I really went crazy viral, breaking that news. So TMZ had actually posted it and deleted it earlier that day, but I caught it. And I had posted it, but then everybody was like, oh, you know, fake news. If TMZ or Shade Room ain't posted, it ain't true. You know, people love doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, it was, you know, unfortunately true.
Yeah. So the type of journalism you do is based off the truth, I assume.
Yes. So there's definitely always there's a trick to that. I was recently actually on Revolt TV. I was a guest on their show talking about bloggers being sued for, you know, not necessarily putting out the truth, especially with like Tasha K and Cardi B. Blogging or in journalism, they really go hand in hand, because you have a blogger, but you still are held to journalistic integrity. So yes, to answer that question, you should be telling the truth, but a lot of things that we report on, we can't necessarily confirm. Right. So we'll have to say, oh, allegedly. So a lot of times when I'm reporting on things, if celebrities don't like the news that's about them, they block me. And it's just like, I think that's the easiest way for them to not see it, is to just block me.
What's your most famous blocks?
Oh gosh. Y'all, please don't judge me, okay? You ready for this list?
Sure.
Okay, Chris Brown.
Damn, my man. Breezy.
Vanessa Bryant. Taraji P. Henson.
Damn, Taraji.
Keisha Cole. Kaya. Jermaine Dupri.
Kaya? Which one?
My Neck, My Back. Kaya.
What news did she? Never mind.
No, I'm sorry. No, did I say Kaya? My Neck, My Back is that Khalees?
That's Kaya. No, I was trying to lean on her a little bit.
Kaya? Okay. Yeah, so Kaya, Latavia Robinson from Destiny's Child.
Latavia, like original OG Latavia?
Yeah.
Where's she been at? And what news do you find about people? Like
a lot of these stories are kind of, some are about news and some are just misunderstandings. Okay. Ashanti. So the ones that are misunderstandings was definitely Ashanti, Taraji P. Henson, Chingy, oh bless his heart, Chingy. And I got blocked by Ashanti for guilty by association because Ashanti was blocking a lot of Beyonce fans. Beyonce fans was
the Beehive don't play.
They do not play.
They be on your ass.
They was going in on Ashanti on Twitter, and at that time my name was Beyonce Fired Me.
I'm an honorary Beehive member. I think Charlamagne started it for the male sector. I think he the first one. So I'm gonna go ahead. We Beehive members over here at Uptown Fashion.
Period. It's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
Hey, it's nothing wrong with that at all. Chris Brown, he blocked me because I broke the news that he had a baby on the way.
Damn.
And
can be messing up the rest of his bait.
Well,
he breezy, man.
Right, but he decided to, announce that he had the baby. I think it was like on Mother's Day. He made a post to the mom and posted the baby. I'm like, oh, now you want to acknowledge the baby that I told everybody about last year. Right. Taraji P. Henson, she blocked me because they were dragging her really bad when she tried to compare Jussie Smollett to Emmett Till. I don't know if y'all remember that. Yeah, they were dragging her really bad.
I have nothing negative to say about her. She's a hometown. She's from the DMV.
I didn't do anything. All I did was post what she said, and the comments were really bad. So I guess she just like, hey, I don't want to see it.
She was just trying to support her castmate. She blocked me. Jussie.
But yeah, so it's just the list definitely continues, but. Yeah, it be sometimes it be the stories that they just don't like. They don't like bad news about them.
Man, and rightfully so, I guess. I mean, if you got out here moving a little funny, then somebody find out and they put it to me.
Hey, I'm just doing my job. Don't shoot the messenger.
Right, yeah. You gotta run a tight ship around here when you're a celebrity. NDAs everywhere.
Absolutely.
So out of all these celebrities that blocked you, Is Miss Megan Pete on that list?
No. I mean, I'm surprised that she hasn't blocked me, but I typically don't really bother her. So.
Okay, so Uptown Alley Fashion, we came across Tea with Tia because of the work he was doing following the Megan and Tory case. Let's start from the beginning.
Whew, like the beginning, all the way back to the 10th.
From July 12th. Was it July 12th?
It was July 12th,
July
2020.
12th, 2020.
And it's just so funny because I like to think that I'm either like psychic or I just be knowing things and I don't know how I know. But literally that night I was up and it was the most random Instagram live ever. I'm just like, why is Megan Thee Stallion on live with Kylie? And then Tory pops up. And I was like, this is the most random get together. But you know, unbeknownst to us, they had just recorded WAP, so that's kind of why they were all together. But after I saw the live, you know, I was just like, oh, that's weird. They was only on live for like a few minutes. And then, you know, after that, when I saw the TMZ video of Megan, I was just like, okay, this is kind of random. But I was telling my friend, I was like, something just doesn't seem right here. I was like, Megan looks really bad because at this point, you know, she's limping, she got her hands up, she's on TMZ with helicopters. And I'm just like, that, it just doesn't look good for her. So when she posted that she injured herself on glass, I was like, okay, you know, well, that makes sense of why she was bleeding. And then fast forward, LilJuMadeDaBeat, which is Megan's producer, he tweeted and deleted, and I'm very good at catching things. He tweeted and deleted Tory Lanez Count Your Days. And then Justin, Megan's former bodyguard, he made a post, he deleted it. He was just like, she's never gonna leave my side, and next time I'm gonna have some people with us who ain't gonna aim for the foot. So these are just like little, mind you, right now we only have the stepped on glass story. Right. So I'm just like, I said, they've had to blame Tory for something. And I was like, I don't know what it is. I just had a feeling they was about to blame Tory for something.
How did you feel when you seen Megan go live and pretty much confirm what people were kind of thinking about Tory shooting at her? So,
you know, after she came out, after she posted that she stepped on glass, and then she posted her foot, and a lot of people in the comments were saying it didn't look like a gunshot, and when she said that she was shot, when she went live to say that the only reason why she was naming Tory was because of what people, like, what the internet was saying, and I'm just like, I haven't seen anything. Like, she said that it was all these blog posts, but I always ask people, I'm like, pull the receipt. Like, there's always a receipt, a screenshot, or something on the internet. Why can nobody show these blog posts that Tory's PR team supposedly made? So I'm just like, this doesn't make sense. She's saying that Tory shot her, but she's only naming him because of him. So at that point, it didn't sound right to me. And just using my criminal justice degree, one of my classes, we had to do interviewing skills. And one of the things they teach you is body language and how to determine if someone's lying. Mm-hmm. What I noticed in the live, that when she had the hoodie with the, I think it was like bluish green hair, she couldn't make eye contact with the camera. She was all over the place, and she kept talking in a high-pitched voice. I was like, she's lying. Instantly, I was like, she's not telling the truth. I was like, her story sounds made up. So from that moment, I still was supporting her as a fan, but I'm just like, she's not telling the truth. But then as it started getting deeper, and you know, Tory's now behind bars, like, I really became really invested into the case because, again, my passion is criminal justice, and I feel like, you know, I am a black woman, and, you know, they have the whole protect black women thing, but I do not feel that protecting black women should stop the protection of black men. So it's like, to me, is protect black people, period. So.
I like that answer. So let me... So, Meg goes live. She confirms Tory shot at her or shoots her. Then we see Tory goes live. How many days? Was it a week after? Or?
No. So Tory didn't speak until October. He literally, yeah, he said nothing. That's why I'm still like confused on what.
Tory's silence was kind of coming across as an admission of guilt, even though he wasn't saying anything, because if we being honest, if somebody's accusing me of shooting at them, you need to come out and clear your name ASAP.
Yeah, and that is a thing that a lot of people kind of can't understand. Like, if somebody's lying on you, it is okay for you to defend yourself. Because I know we have this no snitch culture, and I kind of feel like that might be what Tory is following. You know, I'm not him, not inside his head, but that's the only thing that can kind of make sense to me. But the other thing that kind of makes sense is he's protecting somebody that he cares about. So, and I'm like, that person is Megan, because if you listen to his album Daystar, he makes it very clear.
Crazy album. Crazy
amazing album. And if it wasn't for this situation, I really feel like that is a Grammy-worthy album. Like, it was flawless, and he did it really quick. Like, he wrote it quick, and I was like, this is raw emotion. And that also was another pivotal point for me of like, he's telling the truth. Like, I just have good discernment. I could tell Megan was not being honest about something, and just from listening to Daystar, I was like, this is crazy raw emotion. I was like, you can't fake this. Like, he's telling the truth. So I'm like, well, why won't he just come out and say what happened? Because if you have a victim, and I use that word loosely, but if you have a victim that is accusing you of something, you can't just say I didn't do it without saying who did. So I think that's where a lot of people is having that, that issue. But, when he went live, he questioned her story. How'd you get shot in both feet, didn't hit no bones and tendons? And I think that was a very valid question. I've never been shot before, but I do know that in your foot, it has the most, like, smallest bones and tendons. So it's just like, it just wasn't making sense to me.
When Tory goes live, I'm going to give you the God honest truth. It didn't do enough for me to be like, oh, he didn't do it, because I feel like it's something else it was missing in that interview. I felt like it was a lot of things he was dancing around. Like you said, it could have just been, you can't say I didn't do it without saying who did, and Tory ain't want to throw nobody under the bus.
Yeah.
So Tory goes live, his album comes out. Tory pretty much got a lot of, not even cryptic lyrics, straight to the point lyrics, just kind of letting you know what the situation is. Is there anything in particular that stood out on this album that he might have said?
Yes. He said that even yourself, you don't know what happened. Like, you don't know what happened. So that lets me know that she was literally drunk out her ass, blackout drunk. He also said, don't know the story, so you make one. And I was like, that makes sense, because as she was talking on her live, she sounded like somebody, like a little kid who was trying to lie to their parent from getting in trouble. Like, her story was like, you're making this up on the whim almost, or somebody is trying to feed you some type of information so you can piece together all these little memories you have. And he also, talked about how, he still cares about Megan. But he said the joke's on him, He never thought that somebody that he loves so much can make him sick to his stomach. So that
be the ones to do it.
Yeah, so that to me spoke to he really feels betrayed. So those are some of the things that definitely stood out. But again, the album is phenomenal. In the song in particular, Queen and Slim, that's the song that we actually really get more into kind of understanding what happened from that transition from Kylie's house to getting into the car, because that's where everything went left. So he even said, I would have left had I known you was tripping, on the simple fact that you invited me. So as a woman, I can understand why Megan would have been upset. You invite this guy out that you got relations with, and he in the pool flirting with Kylie. So he even admits that he was flirting with Kylie, and he does like a voice. It's not her voice, but it's like a reenactment. Megan saying, "Motherfucker, bitch, you got me fucked up." So that seems very fitting that she would be cussing him out at that moment, which to me speaks to her state of mind at that time. So I would say that she was angry, but she said something different on Gayle King, but we can get into that.
So we have Meg's live, we have Tory's live, then we have Tory's album. as time goes on, everybody's making their speculations. Of course, more people are thinking Tory is guilty than not guilty, right? At this time, at this point in time. Some months go past, everybody's getting, you know, their opinion on things. So we have a pivotal point to where we see the Gayle King interview, and this is where we noticed there was a text message sent from Kelsey's phone to Megan's bodyguard Justin, who was not in California, right? He wasn't with them, if I'm correct?
He wasn't with them, no.
Okay, so she sends him a phone through text saying, help, Tory shot Meg.
Yeah. So I'm going to say allegedly sent because Kelsey claims she doesn't remember sending that text. She has changed her story a couple times too, but yeah, she says help, you know, Tory shot Meg. It just seemed kind of...
Was it weird?
Yeah, I was about to say, like you said, it seems weird because it's like, how is Justin, who is not there, going to help you at 4 o'clock in the morning? You didn't call the police. You said help, Tory shot Meg. And to me, I was like, this seems like a CYA text. And CYA, cover your ass for people who wondering. But I'm like, okay, so is Kelsey guilty of something? Because I'm like, if I did something, I want to blame it on somebody else, I'm going to cover my tracks real quick, you know? So I did think that was weird.
I do remember when the initial story came out, a lot of nationally syndicated radio shows and podcasters were going in heavy on Tory. It seems from that point till now, a lot of them pulled back and kind of just like, let me wait and see.
Yeah, I want to say that's probably because of some of the like conflicting things that were coming out. For instance, the police report, because I don't know if you remember, and even before the police report, TMZ reported that there was broken glass in the floorboard of the car and that someone fired a gun into the air. So that was one of the first things that even came out. So when they put out the police report also has, there's a section on there from the Dr. Lafredo. They said that Dr. Lafredo treated Megan at Cedar-Sinai and confirmed that her wound is consistent with a laceration due to stepping on glass. And it said that her wound was superficial. So in medical terms, when your wound is superficial, it's basically not, it's not deep. It's basically a surface level wound. Okay. So if you had been shot 5 times, you wouldn't have a superficial wound. You would have a hole in your foot. Well, that's with an exit wound.
I don't think I heard that one before. It was a doctor on there that in the official police report, a doctor said they did.
Yes. So on the police report, they also mentioned the fight that Megan and Kelsey had, and then they go into what the doctor said, Dr. Lafredo. But if you remember on the Gayle King interview, they don't mention Dr. Lafredo. They actually kind of brush Dr. Lafredo to the side. So now we have Dr. Milton Little. He is the orthopedic surgeon that came in and allegedly removed bullet fragments from Megan's foot. And they put the medical records on Gayle King. That was the first time we ever seen it. And the medical records were very blurry. But I did get a chance to look at the medical records, and it was just a little odd to me for a few things. The discharge date was a different date from the date that she was actually discharged. One of the doctor's names is spelled wrong. And I used to work for Duke, and I do know when you use a doctor's name, they have a drop down. You don't type their names in, so they select. And I'm just like, the hospital wouldn't have the assistant surgeon's name spelled wrong. So I just thought, I was like, these documents look kind of weird to me. Because I just don't understand, how do we go from Dr. Lafredo, who works in the ER, how do we go from him confirming lacerations due to stepping on glass to a surgeon saying, I removed bullet fragments out of both of her feet? Like, sometimes I feel like I'm in a Twilight Zone, or I feel like I'm crazy, but I'm just like, am I not making sense to question this?
That's very weird, and it definitely deserves to be questioned. So I guess what I will ask you is, what happened to Dr. Lafredo? Have anybody talked to him? Have anybody reached out to him?
So I've definitely been looking for a way to try to talk to Dr. Lafredo, but I haven't been successful. But I definitely would want to. I don't know how much you could say because of, you know, HIPAA. But that is something that I feel like needs to be zoned in on. I don't know if Tory's appeal team will talk about that on appeal, but that is something that a lot of people aren't focused on. Like, how do we have two qualified doctors who have two different diagnoses? And another thing that kind of was weird to me, Megan said that she told the police, she said she lied about being shot because she wanted to protect Tory.
I believe that. So,
well, I'm gonna tell you why I don't believe that. Because for one, you were already in the safety of the police officer, so it didn't kind of make sense for her to think, oh, they're just gonna shoot and kill y'all because you said you were injured. That doesn't make sense. And when did she stop protecting Tory? Because you wanted to protect him then, but...
Well, you gotta remember the time. It was the George Floyd situation. I get it. We was all on edge with the police at the time.
I mean, that I can give you that. But it was still the fact that she said that she lied about her wound. So you're telling a trained police officer that your bullet wound is a glass cut. So, okay, forget the police officer. You outsmarted the police officers. Now we got the EMT. You outsmarted them too? So you tell the EMT that you got cut on glass because you still protecting Tory at this point. She's still saying she's away from Tory. You know, she's still protecting him. She gets to the hospital.
That's a good point.
You tell the doctors, who she said she thought was the police. I mean, maybe their outfits or uniforms look the same, not sure. But she says that it was glass. So how do you outsmart a police officer, an EMT, and a doctor? So you mean to tell me none of these people realized that you were shot? So that's where, you know, I'm just doing my logical thinking here. Like, it just did not make sense to me. So I have a lot of issues with this case. And like I mentioned before, I have many reasons of why I feel Tory not only is innocent, but I feel like there was a lot of money put behind this to railroad him. And then a lot of people are like, oh, well, he wasn't even a big artist. Why would they go through all the trouble to frame Tory? Okay, so I was like, you're right. Great question. Glad you asked. For one, I would say to protect an investment. Megan Thee Stallion had literally just signed with Roc Nation. They invested money into her. They manage her, meaning they manage her image. They make money off of her being, you know, marketable and getting brand deals. And I'm thinking like, you're on TMZ with a helicopter and police. This does not look good. It's looking kind of ratchet. So what better way to spin this than to make you a victim? That's just kind of my personal theory. Now, some of the things that was starting to get weird was the investigation, or the lack thereof, if we're going to be honest. The officers. You know, like, you've seen maybe crime shows or whatever. You know, when they're like marking the evidence.
Absolutely.
They use
forensic files is my shit.
Right. So they use, like, you know, evidence markers, right? Do you know these fools is out there using torn up pieces of paper?
Well, I understood that was brought up in court, and I have a very close friend of mine, a couple of them actually that are actually police officers. They say they don't all have the markers in their cars all the time.
Okay.
They do use these things sometimes as a, you know, just to be, I guess, improvising with it, I guess, using what you got.
Well, I mean, it continues to get worse. For one, there was 5 cases, but they only found 4. The last case was found in Sean Kelly's yard, and he turned it in. So they didn't even do a full investigation with that. And then you have the gun. They can't find it.
Excuse me?
It's missing. The gun went missing after they tested Tory for his DNA.
So let me get this straight. There's body cam footage of the police. They literally got that gun 10 minutes after it was fired.
Yeah, they bagged it, but now they don't know where it is. And
that's a real question mark right there. I'll give you that.
A big question mark. So I'm like, hello, is chain of custody not a thing?
Yeah.
So I'm like, who's the last person that had it? When, where, why, and how did it go missing? Like, nobody is zoning in on that. And just to press pause on the investigation, let's hop right back to the doctors really quick.
Okay.
You know the alleged fragments they removed from her foot?
Right.
Yeah, missing. Lost them.
So let me get this straight. They don't have the gun.
Nope.
Or the fragments.
No.
How is there a trial?
Well, that goes back to my theory. When you have a multi-million-dollar celebrity on the rise with a billion-dollar company behind them, money talks, bullshit walks.
Man, that's the first big okay. That's weird to me in this situation. If they don't have a gun or the fragments, that's wild to me. You can't. That's just terrible police work.
It is, and here's the thing. They listed several witnesses that they said that they spoke with, but they only, in court, well, actually, they didn't want to call any of the witnesses. So that was a little weird to me, that the police didn't do like a real like investigation and like interviewing the witnesses and actually what they heard and saw. They went based on 911 calls. So I don't know. I just feel like they didn't really try. And then in court, the police officers couldn't remember anything that Tory was saying or doing at that time. They got amnesia. So to me, it's just, I see your face, and that's exactly how I be feeling too. Like, it's very off-putting. It's just like, how is this even real? Like, I had to ask myself over and over, how is this a thing? Like, I feel like we're stuck in a bad episode of Law and Order or something. Because, like, come on now, the gun is missing, and here's the kicker with the gun being missing. So Tory volunteered his DNA. Out of 4 people in the car, he's the only person that volunteered his DNA. To me, I don't think a guilty person would volunteer DNA, because to him, he pretty much said he never even touched the gun. There was female DNA on the gun, you know, but they lost it.
Kelsey has made herself more suspicious as of late than not, right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Kelsey had gunshot residue on her hands.
I heard this. So would it be safe to say Kelsey wasn't tested for DNA because there's no gun to match the DNA results to?
Right, and I feel like that was deliberate, because you lose the gun after you test Tory, but now, you know, because I did go to the motion for a new trial back in May, and one of the things that Jose Baez brought up was, you know, the DNA is gone forever. Like, there's literally no way to redo the test or rerun it. Like, I'm not sure if you saw Tory Lanez post when he was speaking from jail, when he was saying how he knows that the DNA results were manipulated because he said he never touched the gun. So the only way that you can get an inconclusive result is either you did something funny to the test or you stopped it before it completed. So if you do that, you're automatically going to get like an incomplete results. And just for people who's not aware, inconclusive just means they couldn't pinpoint his DNA on the gun, but they also couldn't say he was excluded because they couldn't determine, you know, the DNA. But they did say that there was female DNA, and the expert did say, had he fired the gun 5 times, his DNA would have been 100% conclusive.
He said this on the stand of the trial, right?
Yes.
Because I really didn't start following everything until the trial happened. And
yeah.
I mean, that's how we came across your page. And okay, that's very interesting. A lot of the details definitely sound sketchy as far as what you've been explaining. But I can't wrap my head around the phone call. I feel like the phone call was kind of this. I can't get around that one. I feel like that's an admission. He's pretty much saying, "Hey, look, my bad. I messed up. I was doing too much." Right? That was that.
You talking about the jail call with Kelsey?
Yeah.
I mean, that's fair to bring that up. I mean, a lot of people, you know, interpreted that call that way. But I mean, I just kind of look at things completely different. I think about context clues, the sound of your voice, like a lot of these things, like, I just know what to kind of look for when you just listen to people talk. And if he had just shot your best friend, I just don't see you answering the phone all calm, cool, and collect. Like, what's up? You know what I'm saying? Like, that didn't make sense to me. And then you proceed to give him the location of where Megan is at. So if all this just transpired, why would you be doing that? So just by the calmness of Tory's voice, and he's on a jail call, which he know is recorded, Tory completely seemed out of the loop. He even seemed confused when Kelsey was like, oh, you know, Meg's team's all on it, and he was just like, you know, all on what? Like, he literally seemed confused. And when he's apologizing, I truly feel like he was apologizing for being messy boots and causing the entire night to transpire, because as a man, you know, you pride yourself on being player, and what he allegedly did in the car wouldn't be player
at all. That was the most unplayer shit.
Yeah, so it's just like, you sit there and you outed Megan to her friend about y'all sleeping with each other.
That already is not player right there. That's not player.
Right. So, and I just feel like he's, you know, he's apologizing because, hey, I was just too drunk, you know, running my mouth. You're drunk. Sometimes when we're drunk, we're not ourselves. So I just feel like, to me, that made more sense, because why would he be apologizing about shooting somebody over a jail call, and both of y'all just sound so calm, cool, and collect?
What would you say to people who might have thought Tory did it but not intentionally? That might have been an accident. What would you say to that?
Well, that could be kind of a fair argument, but it's just like, how do you accidentally, allegedly shoot somebody or shoot a gun at somebody 5 times?
Why is it even out?
Right. So so I was like, that didn't make sense to me. I said, something else has to make this story make sense.
But check this out though. They had Kylie house. I think it was a report that they had like 8 bottles of Hennessy or something. Yes,
EJ, which is her former stylist, and just really quick, isn't it kind of weird that after all this happened, everybody fell out with Megan?
I thought that was weird too. I didn't put too much into it. I just figured she was.
I'm just saying.
Some bigger things maybe, but
even your boyfriend even broke up with you. But okay, so yeah, he said they went through 8 bottles of Hennessy.
So everybody is drunk out their mind.
Blackout.
So
drunk.
it's a possibility that Meg might have not even known what happened, like you said earlier, right?
Yeah. And I definitely have two interesting theories, but I'm gonna come back to that, because I wanna mention also the text message that Tory sent to Megan when he was like, I apologize, just got too drunk.
So okay, I remember that too.
Yeah.
The text message. So is it safe to say Tory might have gotten too drunk and been playing around with a gun? You know?
So, and that's also a fair assessment to make. But again, he came out and tweeted and said what he was apologizing for. So my thing is, who are we to try to tell him what he's apologizing for? Because he literally made it clear in black and white. He said, I apologize for fucking 2 best friends and I got caught. He literally tweeted that. So it's like, okay, here we go. To me, this makes sense. It may not make sense to everybody, but it makes sense to me of why he would be apologizing to both Kelsey and Megan. Because my thing is, why are you apologizing to Kelsey if Megan's the one that, you know, was injured? So I just feel like that makes sense. Like, I obviously, you know, hurt both of y'all, being sneaky, and I'm being messy because I outed it, and that's what caused the girls to fight, and the fight ultimately led to everything. But
that's a fair point. That's a fair point.
Yeah, but they want you to believe that Tory shot Megan 5 times because she said Jack Harlow was the only reason why he was hot. That's what they want you to believe.
If I'm drunk, well, first of all, I can't put myself in those shoes, because I don't see any situation escalating with me and 2 women with a gun gets pulled out. But that's here and there. But if I'm drunk, I'm in Hollywood. You know, y'all already riled up. Everybody arguing in the car, like Meg said. Everybody was in there arguing. She say something to press his buttons, because that's what y'all do as women. Y'all know how to press our buttons. Tory loses shit. He drunk. He don't understand what's going on. He lose sight of the situation. He probably pulled a gun out to scare Meg and Kelsey. and not had no intentions of shooting anybody, and it kind of just, you know what I'm saying?
It still just doesn't make sense to me, because if they're on the way to Megan's house, what does he get out of shooting a girl that he's fucking on? Like, it just doesn't.
I never thought it made sense.
It doesn't
from that
make
standpoint. But if I bring in alcohol, and I'm pretty sure probably with cocaine or some shit there, I don't know.
But I wish he would have went with his initial intuition, because a lot of people probably don't know. But 2 days before the incident actually happened, Tory tweeted and said that something doesn't sit right in my spirit.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, he literally said that. You know, he's also a PK, a preacher's kid.
The spiritual world is really
yes.
The natural
so
world.
he has a lot of faith. So it's just like the fact that something came to you and said that something just doesn't sit right, I just thought was kind of like very chilling. And he was minding his business. She FaceTimed him and begged him to come to the party. He was in the studio. So it's like, I constantly say, I just wish he would have just missed her call.
He was trying to make his Daystar album, and he had to change the lyrics.
So let me ask you this. You know, in hindsight, because they don't want to talk about the fight. And I feel like there has to be a reason why they don't want to talk about the fight. Both Megan and Kelsey are pretty much kind of denying the fight happened. But Kelsey had a broken nail at the scene. She had a broken chain. So it's like, okay, what makes more sense? You have the best friend who has been fucking all your men, and now this is the last straw, and you said alcohol, maybe drugs, and you know, a lot of emotions. So what motive makes more sense? You have the girls fighting, and possibly the girls are the one with the gun. The girls are the one firing the gun. Tory gets out of the car, try to break it up. Or Tory shoots Meg 5 times because of Jack Harlow. Which one really makes more sense to you?
The two girls fighting makes sense. The gun being discharged still does that. I don't know. We don't even. How did the gun get discharged? And do we even know who gun it was? So, mind you, when I told you there's a lot of fishy stuff going on. So you know they have the serial number of the gun, right? They have the serial number of the gun? Mm-hmm. So what's the issue?
Alex Botched said it don't matter who owned the gun. They not even tracing the serial number.
Are you serious?
I'm really serious. So if it doesn't matter who owns the gun, why does Tory have a felony conviction of owning an unregistered firearm?
I thought that was weird, seeing as though he had a bodyguard with him. Why would he have a bodyguard with an unregistered weapon? I thought Tory was moving sloppy. Then I had to sit back and think, like, do we know that's his gun? Right.
So, and to be fair, again, they only have pictures of the gun, but it's a small 9mm gun. It was olive green. Shout out to Megan Thee Stallion. Her favorite color is green. And her bags were also green, but you know, okay. So it's a little gun that is marketed to females. It's literally a little gun with a light trigger. It's literally for a female hand. The gun was found in the front seat. The only reason why Tory was even charged, they gave him constructive possession. So it wasn't, they didn't just say, oh, you own this gun. Like, no, when they got pulled over, you know, they had switched seats. Megan ended up in the back seat. So now Tory's in the front. So the gun is now in the front seat on the floor. So they charged him with it. That was the only reason why he was charged with, that was the first charge he ever got, was the possession of the unregistered gun. But a lot of people may think, well, a lot of people have said that they think Kelsey might have slid the gun under the seat because she took the longest to get out the car.
So let me ask you this. That was a very interesting point that you described the gun. I don't think a lot of us didn't know that. So let me ask you this. I remember when we was trying to people were trying to put Kelsey as the shooter, right? Wasn't there something showed in court to where Tory said that somebody commented on a Shade Room post saying Kelsey shot her, and Tory responded, that's not true?
Oh, okay. You're talking about the post that LilJuMadeDaBeat. He said that they matched the bullet fragments from Megan's foot to Tory's gun. And somebody said, well, I heard, somebody said that they said that Kelsey, shot her. And somebody from Tory's page responded, that's not true. Now, I can see how that can be problematic because his whole defense was that, it's kind of pretty much putting it on Kelsey. But I look at that two ways. So it kind of reminds me of the jail call. It's really, pretty subjective of how you look at it. Because I look at it as him saying, no, that's not true. They're not saying that Kelsey shot her. Because at that point, it was really, like you said, it was all Tory. Or in hindsight, because I have another theory, he could be saying that's not true. She didn't shoot her because, me personally, I don't think Megan was shot. And on the stand, Kelsey specifically, every time the DA would say that Megan was shot, Kelsey would kind of correct her and be like, shots were fired. Like, she kept reiterating, shots were fired. To me, that goes back to that TMZ report I was telling you about, where they said somebody fired the gun in the air. And you've heard Daystar's album, don't he got a song, In the Air? So I just feel like these are just little things that has been like dropping that kind of just like, all right, so maybe I have two theories on this case. So, and I'm like, okay, maybe that is the truth. The gun was being fired in the air. So I don't know if they were tussling over it, but like you said, why did it come out? But you have a witness saying that he saw one of the girls go back to the car and grab something, but he never actually saw if it was a gun or not. And he never described the girls. He described the guys. He said the shorter one and the taller one, so we know who was who. But he never described the girls. So that's why I have two theories on who was firing the gun.
Interesting. So I do also remember there was a report, initial report with TMZ that said multiple witnesses that had camera footage.
So we're getting back into this botched investigation. And the police also said that they had possible CCTV and they put an address. So this is a very upscale neighborhood. It's literally the hills. So you would think that there got to be security cameras everywhere. So what I thought was interesting was the gunshot audio. Mm-hmm. Did you know the gunshot audio came from a Ring camera? Mm-hmm. And that Ring camera was from inside somebody's house. Mm-hmm. So that's why there's only audio and no visual. So what are the odds that the person who has a Ring camera inside of their house, is it possible that they got a doorbell camera or some cameras outside the house that you think?
That's a good observation.
Why only the inside camera? Why y'all not using the outside cameras?
At least to get us, even if it's not on camera, get us closer to the situation, right?
Right. And in some of the 911 calls, they said that they could hear a woman screaming and a guy shouting out of frustration, is what one of the callers had said. But on the gunshot audio, you would think if somebody's firing a gun and shooting you 5 times, would you not be screaming maybe? There's nothing to be heard on that call. And going back to that, again, I've never been shot, so I can't say how it feels. But if you just got shot 5 times on your foot, and I mean, as a man, I know y'all got feelings too, but do you think you would be crying?
No.
Okay, but as a female?
Yes.
So I don't know if you've seen her body cam footage when she was talking to the police. They asked her, what happened? Are you okay? She calmly was like, yeah. So you just got shot 5 times?
So she's Tupac.
Well, I honestly don't know how many times she got shot because that keeps changing. And one of her songs, she said, I got shot 2 times and I ate that shit.
Now she can. She ate them like Scooby snacks.
So hey, apparently she did eat it because literally she chilling on the sidewalk, like she ain't crying. She telling everybody she got cut by glass when she really got shot. And
I don't mean to make fun of stuff. She's happy and well now, guys. She's well. Megan's doing fine. I'm not trying to make fun of anybody being a victim of any gunshot wound.
Yeah, it's just, to me, it's just the inconsistencies.
Right.
And it's just like, I believe that something did happen to her. I mean, obviously she has an injury to her foot.
Absolutely.
So I never denied that that technically, yes, she was the victim in this situation. I just feel like she allowed other people to manipulate her. And it's another thing that Tory brings up. Like, you have these people in your ear. You have them feeling like, you have them making you feel like Tory would really do you in, for real, is what he said. So it's just like, so now I'm thinking like, okay, Megan does not know what happened. I've had many drunk nights of my life, you know, especially in college days. So I know how it is to be blackout drunk, don't remember. And that's not off of 8 bottles of Hennessy. Like I said, I don't know how they did it. But it's just like, if you don't know what happened, how can you, with a straight face, with a clear conscience, say that this is what happened, and you know that people are spoon feeding you, you know, the details of the story? It's like everything to me just seemed like it was just being pieced together. So yeah, it's just a lot. It's a lot going on with that. So they don't have any video footage, and if there was some, it's been purchased and buried probably next to the bullet fragments in the gun. They did a special on HBO Max for a documentary.
I watched it.
And so did you see where they kept zooming in on the sign that says cameras in progress?
No. Recording
in progress. It was like security cameras. So they have cameras that line that street. There's also another YouTuber who was following the case, Cat Tells TV. She went to the crime scene and she recorded, and she was like, look at all these cameras.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She pointed out, there's cameras everywhere. Cameras on every house, the corner. Where's the footage?
That is weird. That's another weird point. So why is it that you think they're going through these great lengths to get rid of all this video footage?
Kind of how I was saying before, I feel like Megan is an investment. This is why I strongly feel like Roc Nation has a lot to do with this, because if the video footage showed what they're accusing Tory of, it would literally be blasted on CNN like that day.
And that's my thing. Things leak all the time nowadays, right?
Right. So somebody, don't know who, but I think it's Roc Nation, but somebody is going through a lot of trouble to bury a lot of things. I'm like, okay, if Tory did what y'all say he did, there will be video, audio, all these things. So I personally feel like they don't want audio or visuals to come out because, again, the gunshot audio, we don't hear nothing but gunshots. That to me is that's not realistic. So I personally think that if there was video, it would show Megan and Kelsey fighting like dogs in the street at 4 a.m. over dick. And that's literally what they were fighting over. They were fighting over Tory. So my thing is, that does not look good for business. So it's like, we have to, you know, spin this narrative. So, but what I, again, can't really put my finger on is, why are y'all lying and hiding the fight? And that's where it brings me back to, one of y'all did something wrong, because the fight is what caused it. It gives motive. So, and for Kelsey to come and say that Tory was the one that beat her up. She, you know, in her jail picture, because she was also arrested, she's missing hair. She has bruises on her legs and everything like that. But I'm like, okay, so if Tory beat you up, then who beat Megan up? Because, you know, there was a video of her in an ambulance, and I had paused it because I noticed she had a golf ball knot on her head. And so I had tweeted it and put it out. Nobody had even noticed that before. So that definitely was something that went viral. So yeah, like, she literally has a knot on her head. So it's like, okay, if Tory beat you up, then who beat Megan up? Because Megan, if you let her tell it, she ain't raise her voice, she ain't getting no fight or no arguments with nobody. And why wouldn't she tell us that
Tory beat up Kelsey?
Yeah, why wouldn't she tell us that Tory beat up Kelsey? And why wouldn't she say Tory beat me up? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, if you can tell people Tory shot you, you can definitely tell that Tory beat up Kelsey.
Exactly. So, and then that just brings me back to like, okay, Kelsey said that Tory beat her up, right? So we got Tory, who just whooped your ass, pulled all your hair out, you got bruises everywhere. He just shot your best friend 5 times, but yet you get on the phone with him, and you answered that collect call because it tell you who was calling before you accept it.
How would you respond to people who say, oh, women always talk to their abusers after they abuse them? What would you say to those people?
I would say that is a fair thing to say because, you know, I'm definitely not going to gaslight any women because I do understand that, you know, sometimes you are very comfortable with somebody who may have abused you or you tend to protect them. So I'm not trying to downplay any of that because all that is still serious. But I just feel like in this particular case, it's just a lot of other moving factors. It just doesn't make sense to me. And it's just the lies about the little stuff. So it's like if you're lying about getting in a fight, to me, you're trying to cover something. So it just didn't make sense. And then Kelsey does a diss track called Bussin' Back.
I remember when this happened, when everything was going on initially, I believe. This is, of course, way before. This is the same, like a month after the incident, right?
Yeah.
I was wondering why Meg and Kelsey was dissing each other if Tory was the shooter. I was wondering that.
Again.
I'm still not going, I'm not placing blame nowhere. We just going through the details. And I guess it is safe to say at this point, we know that the story didn't go the way Meg said it went on her IG Live. Yeah.
And like you said, like, why are y'all the ones that are beefing and y'all are going at it online, but she got beat up by Tory, you got shot by Tory, you know, allegedly. So what are y'all going at it about? Because remember, they didn't fight. They didn't argue. So what's the problem? You know what I'm saying? Like, that doesn't make sense. But
Megan lied twice, I believe. This is not me to try to do that, because I remember she said in her live that everybody was arguing and they got out the car. And she said on Gayle King, nobody was arguing, I was just tired and I wanted to leave.
Yeah, well, she said that they were arguing, so assuming that would be Tory and Kelsey.
Right.
And she didn't raise her voice or argue with anybody. But online, Megan and her friends were kind of taunting Kelsey. You know, they talking about her chain got snatched.
Right.
So, your chain got snatched? You mean the chain that was broken at the scene from the fight that didn't happen? So, in her song Bussin' Back, there were some very particular lines that stood out to me that made a light bulb kind of go off. So one of the first things she says is Des Perez, who is the CEO of Roc Nation, she said that Des Perez threatened her if she speaks, a sex tape would drop. So my thing is, what do you mean if she speaks? You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all already accused Tory. So what is it that Kelsey could say that would be so damning that you have to threaten her with the sex tape, allegedly? And then going on to that next point, she says, are you lying to your label? Do they really know what happened? And then in the background, you hear Biggie say, who shot you? So
that was a terrible song, by the way. Not Biggie's Who Shot You, Kelsey's diss track.
Okay, so I was just like, hold on now.
No, Biggie.
But so it's just like,
we ain't doing that.
So it's just like, okay, so what do you mean? Are you lying to your label? Who did Megan say shot her? For the people.
She said Tory.
She said Tory. So why would Kelsey, who was there, say, are you lying to your label? Do they really know what happened?
Yeah.
So no, she said, do they really know what happened? And then she was like, who shot you? So this goes back to my theory of Kelsey kind of dropping hints like, you weren't shot. Shots were fired, because I do know wholeheartedly that the gun was fired. I just don't feel like it happened the way Megan is saying it. So and then that kind of just goes back to, like, Kelsey was really all over the place. Like, she's really all over the place because in her September interview, again, she says Tory beat her up. But she slips up and says she was firing the gun in the air. That's what she says the word she. So unless she's talking about herself in third person, she's talking about the other she that's there. And that would be Megan, which again speaks back to my theory that Megan might have been the one that was firing the gun.
That's the first time I heard that theory, and nobody ever blamed Megan because she's the victim in the situation.
Yeah, and I was like, but it just, a lot of the things just didn't make sense. So I was like, how do I make this story make sense? And I was just like, because again, I don't feel like Roc Nation is going to go through all this trouble to protect Kelsey. And why would they threaten Kelsey? So I'm like, everybody is protecting somebody, and it has to be a common denominator. Same thing with Tory.
Damn sure not Tory. They ain't protecting
Exactly, but Tory is also protecting somebody, and he talks about in his album about the person that he loves the most, which would be Megan. And I'm just like, to me, it just logically makes sense because again,
why does he love her so much? They were just dating for like they weren't even dating. He was dating Kelsey, right?
Well, no, they were not. Okay, so just really quick on that story. They met at the Roc Nation brunch early that year.
Okay.
It was during the Grammys time, so I think it was like February. Megan put Kelsey on to Tory.
Okay.
So, they was doing their thing or whatever, but Megan told Kelsey to stop messing with Tory because she wanted to work with him. And, Kelsey at the time was Megan's assistant, so she didn't want it to be, conflict of interest or messy.
Well, they failed at that.
Right. So now you see where Kelsey is in that mindset, like, you tell me to stop fucking with him just for you to go hop on him? Because Kelsey ended up getting COVID and she had to go back to Texas. So that's when Megan pretty much moved in on Tory and they had their thing going on. And they've been bonding because both of their moms died. So that was one of the things that they really, connected on. So, even going back to her, her September interview, she says that, her and Megan didn't have anything going on. There was a fight with Tory. But then when she gets on the stand, she says she doesn't remember anything. And she said that she might have bumped into Tory, is what she said. And then rewind back to Megan. Megan said she doesn't remember fighting with Kelsey, but she might have bumped into Kelsey. So you don't find that weird that they both describe the fight as a bump? That doesn't sound coached?
I mean, yeah, I can't. I mean, you can't piss on me and tell me it's raining, right? So
that I was like, it just doesn't, but those are the things that are just troubling to me. It's just like, there's evidence that you got into a fight. It's literally in the police report. So that goes back to, why are we ignoring the police report and why are we ignoring Dr. Lafredo?
So, the police report, Dr. Lafredo. Was there anything standing out from Sean Kelly's 911 call? Did anything stand out to you?
Oh, the 911 call that is sealed, that they won't let nobody listen to?
Oh, really?
More fishy stuff going on, right? So Sean Kelly's 911 call is literally under lock and key. You can't hear it.
Let's go through a list. Hey, Foolie, if you can you list the things that we don't have? We don't have a gun. We don't have any fragments, and we don't have a 911 call. And we're completely ignoring the police report.
Yeah. And we have a victim that has 5 different stories. And
we have a neighborhood of cameras that nobody has
visual for. We have the audio, but we have no screaming. And then we have a very calm gunshot victim.
I still don't understand how this went to trial. I'm not blaming Meg or Tory on this one. How did this go to trial?
It's celebrities, and and I'm glad you also mentioned that as far as the trial, because something I just thought of. Do you remember when Megan said that the only reason why she was naming Tory was because of the blog stuff that she's seen online?
Absolutely.
And that she had nothing to do with the police or the DA charging him, So that turns out to be a lie. So the transcripts were recently revealed, and I did a reading through the transcripts. Megan,
shout out your page right quick.
So yes, Tea with Tia. You can catch the playbacks of the audio that I did the reading on my Twitter, which is Real Tea with Tia. So you can find it there. So in the transcripts, it was revealed that Megan went to the police 4 days after the incident and said, that Tory had did this. So she lied about that. But another thing that kind of just stood out, if she went and said that Tory did this, 4 days after, why did it take them months to even charge him? Because personally, I feel like they had a meeting and they pretty much said, hey, you know, we know it's your gun. I think it's her gun, but this is just all allegedly. This is just me thinking what I thought the meeting was. I'm thinking that they're saying, hey, we can prove that it's your gun. You know, you or Kelsey, whichever, y'all did this, you know, this is a crime, you know, so this is where the cleanup starts to happen. So then this is where we have to go back and change a lot of things. We got to get rid of Dr. Lafredo. We got to not pay attention to this police report. We got to lose the gun. We got to lose, like, everything to me is just like whatever has to go. So then eventually the DA said, okay, we're going to take it to trial. Because I'm like, if you have a complaining witness for victim 4 days afterward, it doesn't take you months to, you know, file official charges. So I think that's what happened with that. So what I also just don't get as far as the charges is concerned, if Kelsey was also allegedly assaulted by Tory, where's her charge? Like, where's charges for her? Like, do we not care about this black woman? So, like, it just didn't make sense. So, if you are saying that he assaulted you, why are there no charges, you know, brought on Tory for Kelsey? Kelsey she started looking, like you said, a little more guilty than not. And Kelsey had gunshot residue on her hands directly.
Yeah, this was proven in court, right?
Yeah, she had gunshot residue on her hands. And then she got immunity. So it's like, if you are an innocent witness to this case, why do you need immunity?
And if Tory whipped your ass like you said he did, there's no reason to come on the stand with immunity and threatening to plead the fifth. That's what I always thought too.
Exactly.
Once the trial was going on, that's what made it kind of shaky. Like, damn, man, I hope they're not trying to work my man up there like that, but I don't know. And
then what also started making my wheels turn, Kelsey mentions on the stand that she didn't even know Megan was shot. So hold that thought. She said she didn't know Megan was shot. Didn't you bring up the text message that she sent to Justin?
Yeah.
Help, Tory shot Meg. But on the stand, she said, I didn't even know she was shot. She said that Megan's team told her that she stepped on glass. So my thing is, how can her team tell you anything when you were there? So Megan says she never even saw Kelsey. Kelsey claims she was standing next to Megan when it all happened. So I'm like, were y'all even in the same car at this point? So Kelsey's just starting to just move weird, and like how she's just been like talking to people. I had a post that I had posted exclusively on my Instagram. A Tory supporter had reached out, had responded to Kelsey's story. She posted a story of her son, and they was just like, well, you know, at least you get to spend time with your son. Tory is behind bars for something that he didn't do. So instead of just ignoring it, she responds with a voice message and was just like, bitch, that's not my motherfucking problem, and now I'm blocking you.
That's what happened?
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, that might not be those exact words in that order, but she definitely called the girl a bitch. She said that's not my motherfucking problem, and she told the girl that she was blocking her, and she blocked her. So it's like, no, you like somebody's saying like Tory's doing time for something he didn't do, and you said that's not your problem. So whose problem is it? Because she also hit it alive, you know, kind of like back in when it first all came out. She did a live where she was basically saying like, when it's her turn to talk, like people really gonna be looking, you know, crazy. So I'm just thinking like, Kelsey, what is it that you have to add or say? Like, what is it that all of you are not saying? Right. So I do have my thoughts on Kelsey, you know, being the shooter, because again, she has gunshot residue on her hands. What they don't want to pretty much publicize is Tory had gunshot residue on his wrists. Now I know he's one talented ass rapper, but that's some real talent to shoot a gun 5 times with your wrists. I'm just saying.
Some Doc Holliday shit. So let me ask you this. What would you say to the people who was like, why isn't Quan on the stand just telling everybody what happened to clear Tory's name? Why wouldn't they not put Quan on the stand? It's looking like Tory's trying to hide some stuff too, by not putting Quan up there.
Okay, that's another fair observation. Quan did show up to court. I really feel like they was going to use Quan as the last resort after Sean Kelly pretty much made a mess on the stand. Before
you continue on Quan, I just want to put a disclaimer. I don't know how that judge let that trial keep going after Kelsey did what she after the Kelsey shit. Because I ain't gonna say no lie. I'm throwing that shit out. I'm like, get out of my courtroom and y'all just stay away from each other. Like restraining order forever, I guess. Like, because it's just, I'm not. Come on, yeah.
And this is why I feel like a lot of pockets were greased, and I truly believe that. And to me, the judge and the DA, they're all co-workers.
Absolutely.
So he's going to be more lenient. He really let them run amok and do what they wanted to do in the courtroom. And just really quick on Sean Kelly. Sean Kelly was the independent witness. The state never was going to call Sean Kelly as a witness. So my thing is, if he is the only independent eyewitness, why wouldn't you as a state be calling him to say what he saw, right? Obviously, y'all did not like what he originally said in his original statements, because even going back to the preliminary hearing, he's been saying from day one that the shots came from the girl, the flash came from the girl. And I truly feel like that's why we can't hear not one call, because he's actively on the phone while it's happening, because the dispatch had to tell him that it was gunshots and not fireworks, because he thought it was fireworks.
Because he's foreign, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he's British.
Okay.
So yeah, he thought it was fireworks. They were telling him like, no, we got shots fired calls. So my thing is, if he's actively on the phone, I believe that, because being that they're literally in his backyard, I believe you can hear what's going on, and that might be why they wouldn't even play his call in court. So, and just another little thing to point out, he spoke with the DA moments before he testified. And now all of a sudden he puts the gun in Tory's hands. And he's saying Tory is firing all recklessly. They added a reckless firing charge during the trial. So I'm thinking, this is just me thinking, with my criminal justice thinking hat, you don't feel confident in your first two charges, so you're going to throw something in there that you can get to stick. And you get that to stick by getting Sean Kelly to change his story to say that Tory was firing recklessly, because how convenient. This man who has had the same story for almost 3 years, all of a sudden changes his story. Like, I would think that his story would be the freshest the night it happened, right? So with him changing his story, the defense, everything was blown up. So now they're going to bring Quan in. I felt like they weren't going to bring Quan in for the same reason why Tory is not speaking. I would assume if Tory doesn't, he's probably calling the shots here. Like, I don't want to be that person. Like, I do not want to throw a female or, Megan or whoever under the bus.
When your freedom on the line, you might want to do something.
Yeah, and that's the thing that is frustrating, with me and other Tory supporters, but at the end of the day, he's making a decision for himself, but it is frustrating for us. It's like, we want you to choose you first. Like, you're not a snitch if you're defending yourself. And like, not saying that he feels that he's following a snitch culture, because ultimately, I have no idea why he's not speaking. But like you said, when your freedom is on the line, you would think that, he would say something.
In this particular situation, you're being blamed for something you claim you didn't do. And if somebody's like, I'm sorry, I don't stand on no snitch culture or nothing at all. I've never snitched on nobody in my life. But if you trying to accuse me of something I ain't do,
right,
I'm gonna tell you what happened.
So you're not snitching. And so when they call Quan to come on the stand, the DA said they don't know what he's going to say. So they said they needed a week to prepare for what Quan was going to say. And mind you, this was right before Christmas.
Yep.
So they had already lost a couple jurors. They had jurors that was coming back from lunch drunk. Yes. Oh,
they probably ain't want to
listen, the case was ghetto, okay? You got the drunk jurors, you got the juror who always had to go to the doctor, so they were switching the jurors out. So Tory didn't want to risk a mistrial. So he went ahead and said, you know what, let's just rest. So they rested the case, and Quan never testified. But my thing is, in hindsight, a guilty person, a mistrial, that's almost a pretty good deal, you know? Because it's like, all right, throw it out, retry me if you want to. But I'm like, to me, that's an innocent man because he wants his name to be clear. He wants to be vindicated. Like, he can
get the mistrial, and then he can speak for himself after the mistrial.
But he didn't want a mistrial. That's why he told them to rest, because they could have continued the case, but it would have lasted past Christmas.
And if you get over with.
Yeah, and if you start losing most of the jury, then they just going to declare the mistrial, and then they would have to start over. So he didn't want that to happen. So he went ahead and was like, you know what, just rest the case. So they rested without him testifying and without Quan testifying. And he really wasn't. He wanted to testify, but they said they were going to use like rap lyrics, his gun tattoos.
They was going to eat him up.
Yeah, basically they was going to, assassinate his character.
And use his words against him as far as lyrics.
Yeah, so that's pretty much, how that pretty much ended there. Just going back to the beginning really quick, because we all know that Tory has had a slew of different lawyers.
Right.
So just going back to the beginning, he had Shawn Holley. She's like the female Johnny Cochran. Yeah. She was on the OJ case.
Absolutely.
So when I heard that he had Shawn Holley, I was just like, oh yeah.
People thought they had it in the bag.
Right, because I was like, she's gonna eat. But then as things started coming out, she literally kind of just seemed like she kind of dropped the ball and was coasting. And it didn't kind of make sense to me for such a high dollar lawyer. And some of the things where I'm saying that she was kind of coasting, during the preliminary hearing, she did ask for a mistrial. The judge denied that. So she did try to get it thrown out. I guess she tried. But one of the main issues was the DNA. She never got a DNA expert to test Tory's DNA themselves. She just had someone to pretty much analyze the results that the DA came up with. And with all due respect, I'm not going to listen to what the opposing side says. I need to do my own. And it was just like, it just seemed like she kept continuing the case until Tory had no more continuances, and then she drops off the case because she said she had a scheduling conflict.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, okay, so what was bigger? This is literally like the biggest hip-hop case at that time. So I'm like, she's dropping off because of scheduling conflict. I was like, something just isn't sitting right with Shawn Holley. So just me just doing, because I'm at this point, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, you guys. I'm just a very logical thinker. And at this point, I'm thinking that Roc Nation just has a lot to do with everything. Even after the trial, Sunstar, which is Tory's dad, he said Roc Nation will crumble. And it's like, he really feels that Roc Nation is evil, and it had a lot to do with the outcome of this case. Now, how I am tying Shawn Holley to Roc Nation is, I don't really believe in coincidences. I feel like everything happens the way it's supposed to. Mm-hmm. Shawn Holley has a show on Hulu. It's called Reasonable Doubt. Mm-hmm. The show is based on her. Does Reasonable Doubt sound familiar to you?
Jay first album.
Okay. So, you got your phone? Because I need somebody to Google the names of each episode. And I just want you to read off the name of each episode. So yeah, look up Reasonable Doubt.
Shawn Holley's Reasonable Doubt, right?
Yeah, or you can just put Shawn Holley Reasonable Doubt, you put Hulu. I want you to name the episodes once you find it.
I got you. Reasonable Doubt. Okay. Alright. Do drama. Okay, TV series. Episodes. Here we go. Okay.
Yeah, read those episodes out loud for the people so we can hear them.
Episode number 1, Can't Knock the Hustle. Episode number 2, Family Feud. Episode number 3, 99 Problems. Episode number 4, Guilty Until Proven Innocent. Episode number 5, So Ambitious. That's one of my jumps. Episode number 6, Renegade. Episode number 7, Nigga What, Nigga Who? What did they talk about on that episode? I don't think I would like that one. Episode number 8, Song Cry. And episode number 9, Already Home. So all her episodes are pretty much Jay-Z songs. Jay-Z songs.
And all of those had to be approved by
Jay-Z.
And Roc Nation. So that show released September of last year. Do you know what month Shawn Holley dropped Tory?
What month was this?
September of last year, when her show was set to come out. Again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but it's just, I don't know, to me,
I will say this, us at Uptown Alley Fashion, we are big Jay-Z fans also, so I'm kind of hard pressed to believe Jay got his hand in it. Like, I really don't think. I think this is like so low below him right now.
I'm not saying that Jay-Z himself, has his hand, but of course he's gonna be the face of Roc Nation. And again, Roc Nation is who I feel like is driving the seat here when it comes to why this case seems so out of the norm. So it's just like, you have Shawn Holley, who's a top dollar attorney. She literally has dropped all these balls, has continued Tory's case to the point where he has no continuance. So now he has to go to trial in December. From September to December, what we got? October, November. So now he has to pick up a new lawyer.
Yeah.
So you're trying to play catch up. So at the motion for a new trial, they put out the email that Shawn Holley that sent to Tory, and she pretty much said that she didn't want to go with the Kelsey theory. She said she didn't want to blame Kelsey. So my thing is this. If this is a theory that y'all have been working on and preparing for, why now you don't want to go with the Kelsey theory? Because to me, this is just me in hindsight thinking, if you remove the Kelsey theory, who do we have to blame? You really have no defense. And Tory's literally a sitting duck, because again, if he's not going to say outright who did what, and you want to take away the Kelsey theory, it's like, what do you want us to do at this point? And she also was saying, that the bribery, they were trying to say that she bribed Kelsey, so she was just trying to pull herself back. I just feel like it was just all like just little white lies of why you had to leave the case. Like, to me, it didn't make sense. Because why is the Kelsey theory not a good theory? Because even if that isn't true, it wasn't Kelsey, you have to create the reasonable doubt, because reasonable doubt is what should have won the case. Because if you have a victim who was drunk or possibly on drugs or whatever, then you have conflicting stories, missing evidence, a botched investigation. Then you got the lead detective who got kicked off the case because apparently he was beating his wife.
What was his name?
Stockner, Detective Stockner.
Foodie, add that to the list. We don't have.
We got an all-going list.
The lead detective. This is just for the trial purposes. This is not me saying what happened or nothing. It shouldn't be on lead detective, gun, fragments, and everybody's ignoring the police report.
Yeah. So yeah, they took Stockner off the case, but come to find out, he was actually moved to a different unit, supposedly the gang unit. But still, it's like, why did he get kicked off the case? I'm not really sure. They did a lot of things that they really weren't supposed to do, or they didn't really kind of, really investigate this the way they should have, because they literally investigated this as if Tory is the only suspect. And they're not supposed to do that. Even though you have a victim that's pinpointing somebody, you also have to take in consideration that she was impaired. Like, she wasn't in her complete right mind. So it's like, we have to consider other possibilities.
That's what I was saying. That's why I don't want to sit up here and want to make Meg seem like she's a super villain or bad guy. I honestly, from my opinion, from everything I hear, she might not have known what really happened, and shit just might have happened accidentally. So I mean, I don't know.
So It's just one of those things where a lot of it just doesn't make sense. It's not a ordinary case, but a lot of the things that we've mentioned, his lawyers, they did at his last bail hearing that was just on Thursday. They did a press conference and they said, because one of the YouTubers that I mentioned earlier, Cat Tales TV, she went straight in for the jugular. She was just like, there's no gun, there's no fragments. Everything that we've been listing today, she brought it up. Like, how do you have a case without the most important things? And the lawyer said that they're going to bring all of that up on appeal. So I have a good feeling.
Why haven't it been brought up before on other appeals? What is it? Why?
Well, this is his first appeal.
Oh, first, okay.
Motion
for a new trial. Can you not bring it up for motion for new trial?
So, just briefly on the motion for a new trial, that's only for trial errors. So you have to error of law. So for you to get a new trial, you would have to prove that there was some type of error of law or something like ineffective assistance of counsel. Now, they brought up a lot of great points of what was wrong with the case, but you can't, to get a new trial, you can't re-argue points that you can't try to re-argue new points. A new trial is literally just to go back and fix the errors that were made. So they were trying to bring up issues like, Kelsey's September interview shouldn't have been played, or just different issues they were trying to bring up. But the judge said, had you had said ineffective assistance of counsel, then all your other issues would have fell under that, and then you would have had to weigh in. But they didn't do that. They said that they were trying to hold the integrity of George, because when you accuse a lawyer of ineffective assistance of counsel, it's like a mark against them, and it's not good to have on your record as a lawyer, because, so they did not do that, and I guess they were giving him grace because he literally was thrown in at the last minute. So to me, he still did the best he could, and the transcripts pretty much lay that out. It's a lot. I've read through Kelsey's 2-day interview. She was on the stand for 2 days. I read through all of that, read through Megan's transcripts and the preliminary hearing transcripts. And a lot of things that a lot of people aren't privy to are like the sidebar information that was given out. And being that this case was not televised, they had to rely heavy on people reporting on the case. And, like I said earlier, they all made it their business to say that Megan Cuniff was going to be the reporter, and they didn't give anybody else the benefit of the doubt, especially like Millie. She was actually there. She covered the case. I feel like she took the best notes. A lot of people thought she was making it all up because, again, they didn't have anything to like reference it to, because Megan Cuniff, even though they say she's not biased, she didn't put out anything that would make Megan look bad in a bad way. Millie gave it the raw truth, and people, to try to discredit her because you're just a Tory stan and you're lying. But now that the transcripts are out, Millie didn't miss a beat. She wrote everything verbatim. So it's just like, why are we not, listening to black media? So yeah, I'm not really a fan of Megan Cuniff, because if they want to say we're biased, she's actually really biased. She even called herself a hottie. So I'm just like, okay, well, if we're biased, then she's biased. So one of my biggest issues with Megan Cuniff is she just tries to undermine me and discredit me a lot. And I really don't like that, because, I put out accurate information as well. And just some things in particular, I did a YouTube video. Again, I do a lot of just my own thinking. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, I promise. But I did a YouTube video where I pointed out the misspelling of the doctor's name. But something else that was very interesting to me was Dr. Milton Little. He was the head surgeon who removed the fragments out of her foot. I found an interview that he did, and he said that his dad was the president of United United Way. So, you know, just me being me, I was like, oh, I bet you there's a Roc Nation connection here somewhere. I was right. So I look up the doctor, and I look up his dad. His dad is also Dr. Milton Little, but they have a different middle initial. But he is the CEO and the president of United Way, so I did some more digging. And they have really big donors. Can you guess who the big donors are?
Who are they?
Beyonce and Jay-Z. They donate a lot of money to their foundation, and the actual foundation is listed on Megan Thee Stallion's website. So, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but we have Dr. Little, who's the son of a guy who is heavily supported by Roc Nation, who comes behind Dr. LaFredo and says he performed surgery. But we can't test the fragments because he lost them. So, going back to Megan Cuniff, again, she never calls me out by name, but I always know when she's talking to me. So she goes on Twitter and says, oh, this idiot does a YouTube video basically saying that, oh, the doctor is somehow tied to Roc Nation. She's being very condescending. And then she's like, oh, come to find out, his dad, talking about the big Dr. Little, he died years ago and he was never the president. He was just a volunteer. Misinformation. First of all, the man just posted on Instagram in July. He's not dead. And he very much so is the CEO and the president of United Way. But this is who they claim as the most credible source. And she's out here really trying to downplay everything. So Megan Cuniff is not innocent. And a lot of people think that I bully her and I'm always bothering her. But Megan Cuniff can get nasty. She talks all her shit on YouTube. That's where she be talking shit. And we've had back and forth in DM. She said I'm a joke. Like, she said things to me and it's just like, that's where, the things happen with us. But Megan Cuniff just need to worry about her DUIs. So.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
How many she got? You said DUIs. How many she got?
As far as I know, she got 2, but she said she don't care about that. Yeah, she said that's not important. But I was like, no wonder she identifies with Megan. Megan doesn't have DUIs, but
Shots
they definitely
no pun intended.
They definitely like to drink. But yeah, so she yeah. Enough of her. Also, are you familiar with Dennis Byron?
I believe Mr. Dennis Byron was one of the correspondents I was following while trying to follow the trial. Him and Millie was the ones that were locked into following.
Okay, so he was definitely Team Tory in the beginning, but I feel like once he saw that there was more clout to be made if you supported Megan, he completely jumped ship. And what was kind of disappointing with me is he helped fuel a narrative that me and Millie are biased. So if you're putting this out that we're biased and all these things, people feel like they can't take information from us because, oh, we're only just going to try to make Tory, look good. So for instance, me and Millie posted a picture. We both were at the motion for a new trial. That's actually where I physically met her. We had already been kind of chopping it up online, but that was my first time actually meeting her. And he goes and tweets, oh, the Bias sisters just arrived. And then, it's just like, well, why would you say that? Mm-hmm. Why would you go on your platform and try to discredit us? But he recently blocked me. I should have added him to the people who blocked me. But and Megan Cuniff has me blocked too. But he recently blocked me because he made a tweet stating that there was a blogger who was getting arrested due to I guess witness intimidation or whatever. So when he said that, he didn't put a name on it. So and he said it's tied to the Tory case. So who the bloggers are that they're going to think this is about.
Yeah, you and Millie.
Exactly, me and Millie, right? So I was just like, that was very irresponsible of him. We got on the phone call, even though he claims that we didn't, but we did. We got on the phone call, and I was like, so has it been filed? Like, has the warrant been filed? He said that it hasn't. So I went and posted and said, take this with a grain of salt. He told me that it hasn't even been filed yet. So he gets mad and says, oh, I'm lying. So he goes on a rant. He does a live, and he's calling me out. He's calling me Tia with the T, but it's T with Tia. Get it right.
He old. You gotta get it.
Yeah. So he's doing a live calling me out, and he's saying that, oh, I'm about to catch a stray. And he was like, if you want to get caught up in a RICO. And I'm like, a RICO? Are we talking about like YSL RICO? Like organized crime? And I'm just like, this case is so dramatic. Like, a lot of people don't know to me, I call it as the blog turns. It's literally a soap opera within this case, just with the people who are covering it. So he went on a rant talking about we was gonna be in a RICO, and nothing ever happened with that because he's a little delusional. But Millie, I think, like I said, she had the best notes because a lot of people, she was what was visible. Even though I had been covering the case from the beginning, I was more on the blogging side. Millie is a commentator. So she's been doing a lot of commentation, and the fact that she was at the trial, she was able to really like go on live, and she went on live with academics. Yep. And really like go into detail. I found her because somebody sent her page to me and was like, hey, y'all have very similar views. I really think you should like link up and like listen to her. So I started listening to her coverage. I was like, oh wow, this is good. Because honestly, I was following, because Nancy Dillon was really the go-to person on Twitter, but she let Megan Thee trick her out her spot. So I only could follow what they were saying on Twitter. And I'm like, hold on. Now what Megan Thee is saying versus Millie, it's just like we getting all the meat, the potatoes, everything with what Millie is saying. So I was like, okay, let me zone in. So I started posting her coverage on my TikTok. Just letting people know, like, y'all need to hear this. Like, this is really what's going on. And a lot of people thought I was Millie when I did that. And I made it very clear that I wasn't Millie. I always gave her credit and was like, follow Milagro, but they all thought I was Millie. So a lot of people was just like, oh, you did great with the coverage. I was like, I wasn't there. But I did follow the case. I'm very knowledgeable of the case. But yeah, shout out to Millie. Shout out to Millie. That's my girl. She did a great job, and she definitely kept us all in the know.
So now we get to this point. What is it that T with Tia thinks went down that night?
You want both of my theories?
Absolutely.
Megan or Kelsey first?
Give us Kelsey.
Okay. So this is as if Kelsey is the shooter. So, they have the pool party. They're at Kylie's house. And then some of this is me plugging in what Kelsey said happened as far as the transition from the pool party to the car. Because what some people probably don't know is Tory sent Megan and Kelsey home the first time they left. Megan insisted to go back because she said she left her slipper. Her slipper, aka Tory. So
what kind of slipper was this? Was it a Cinderella jump?
She said she left her slipper, so she demanded to go back to Kylie's house. So when she goes back to Kylie's house, she gets kicked out. So the fact that she gets kicked out, pretty much, Tory, you gotta go too, because this is y'all drama. So now they're in the car, they're arguing about, the whole thing. Because I would be pissed because, for one, you just got us kicked out of Kylie's house, you tripping, you wild, and whatever, so y'all are arguing. Megan is pissed, she's upset, and I do believe that she was insulting his music career. Like, I believe all that stuff happened. I believe there was an argument in the car with that. Kelsey says that she interjected into the conversation and was like, I don't care what y'all got going on, but you ain't gonna talk to my friend like that, type of thing. Like, you ain't about to call her out her name. So this is where Tory turns into messy boots. And he says, oh, well, you taking up for her? Well, let me tell you what she been doing behind your back type of thing. And that's where I feel like the argument started in the car and things got a little heated and Quan pulls over. And they get out and they fight. Like, they going at it. Them bruises on Kelsey's leg, I think it comes from Megan kicking her. And I think
Meg got some strong knees.
Yeah, and I think that this is again, this is my Kelsey theory. So in this theory, I believe that Megan is getting the best of Kelsey, and because she got missing hair, she got bruises, so Megan, you know, she whooping down on her. So Kelsey go back to the car. She grabbed the gun.
She got the blick out the gun.
Yeah, she got the gun and she just start like firing it. But I think that, you know, at this point, we still have to figure out, okay, well, what happened to Megan's foot? Glad you asked. So Kelsey has a lot of bruises on her leg. I think that Megan is kicking the shit out of Kelsey. And I think as she's kicking her, she injured her foot either breaking a glass on the car. Oh yeah, the car is gone too.
Foolie. Add to the list.
The car is in the pound, so we don't know if the window was broken or not. That is something that I can't confirm. They don't know if the window was broken. So hypothetically, if the window was broken, I think that when she was kicking at Kelsey, I think that she kicked her foot through the heel, her because the injury's on her heel. I'm thinking she kicked it through the window. And on the stand, the doctor did not call it bullet fragments. It was only bullet fragments on the blurry documents. On the stand, he called it metallic objects.
That's crazy.
Or metallic fragments.
You familiar with Whack 100, right? Just not to cut you off.
Yeah.
I remember.
I was in the room when
he said, he said that theory on, before we even got nowhere near to this point.
Yeah, he said it on Clubhouse.
She was kicking out the windows and shit. That's how she
said.
That's exactly what he said.
It kind of just makes sense because if the doctors are calling it metallic objects, I looked up window tint. Mm-hmm. It's metallic objects and window tint.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, it's just a theory. But it still kind of didn't explain the gun part for me. So that's why I said Kelsey just doesn't really quite fit in my theory because it just doesn't make sense for Kelsey. The only thing that's weird is the gun, the gunshot residue being on her hand, and Tory saying, I was just trying to protect my girl. So those are the things that kind of like made me zone in on Kelsey. Like, okay, if you're protecting your girl, who's your girl in this equation? I'm assuming they got to be Megan, but what are you protecting her from? So it's just like, you know, is Megan trying to get the gun from you? Like that, it's still kind of blurry when it comes to Kelsey. And Kelsey sends the text to Justin because she know that she did something wrong. And yeah, and she sounded very stressed on that jail call. So that's just kind of, you know, why that's my theory with Kelsey, but it's not my best theory. Now, my best theory is Megan, and I have a lot of things wrapped up into why.
I gotta hear this because I've never heard this one before.
Yeah, so going back, before I tell you my theory, just going back to Roc Nation. Remember how I said that they're doing a lot of things to protect her? Because a lot of people think that Megan is signed to Roc Nation as a record label, but that's not true. They manage her. So when you manage somebody, you're literally, it's like PR, you're managing their image. So if you, because mind you, she didn't really have a whole lot of money at this point. You know, she's still with the independent label. So they fronted her. You know, they invested, they put money into her because it's like they're going to get a return on their investment. You have like the biggest rising female rapper in the game.
Yeah, she had one of the quickest rises to
right,
A-list,
like she,
A-list status,
yeah, very, like she just did a song to Beyonce. Like she's, like I'm not gonna shit on her in front. Yeah. Like she was really doing her thing. Cause like I said, I was a Megan fan. So she's rising, she going to the top. But right when you spend money, you put money into her, she on TMZ, drunk, half naked, helicopters, guns drawn. That's not a good look. That also goes to my point of them hiding the fight. Because if you admit to the fight, you have to also admit to what you were fighting for. So now you have to say you're fighting your best friend in the street like dolls in Beverly Hills at 4 a.m. over dick. Why are you fighting over dick? Oh, because I backstabbed her like I did with the other 3 guys. And then it's going to come out that, oh, you slept with the baby the day before that you slept. You know, it's just all this stuff is just coming out. So I feel like they was trying to suppress those ends so it wouldn't come out. Because, like, if all those things come out, your brand is really tarnished at this point. You're not marketable. Nobody's going to want to, like, you're no longer a girl's girl. You can't preach that hot girl shit. You can't, like, you literally are known as a backstabber. You're drunk. You're a troublemaker. She already had a mug shot out because she abused her ex-boyfriend. So it's just like all.
Didn't know that. Yeah.
A lot of people don't, but you have to look for it. But it's online. You just look up her mug shot. She has an assault. She was charged with assault. So I just feel like they are protecting her image because it just makes the most sense for money-wise. So it's like, I feel like they put a lot of money to make sure that Tory went down for this. He had to go down for this because if he didn't, everybody's going to call her a liar. So now we have drunk, violent, liar, backstabber, hoe. That's why they also didn't want to talk about her sex life.
I kind of feel like it wouldn't have did nothing to her celebrity that much though. 'Cause I mean, how many people we still look up to like, oh yeah, that we know they probably piece of shit. Right?
Yeah, but to them, when you're thinking about where the money is, where you think the real money is when we're talking about marketing somebody.
With the children?
Well, no, more so kind of like in the white community.
Okay, yeah.
Think more commercial.
Right.
We're talking about movies, big brand deals, being brand ambassadors, things like that. So, in order to protect that, we have to make you a victim. We gotta say it happened like this. I don't think Megan knew what happened, so they're literally spoon feeding a story and they're playing cleanup because Megan even said it during the trial. After she got shot, she said, "Call my manager, he'll know what to do." So we're calling T. Ferris instead of calling
T. Ferris.
T. Ferris is
Paul Wall always right by him, I believe.
Yeah, he's he was the person that pretty much took Megan to Roc Nation behind Carl's back. So she wanted to call him. So getting into my theory, that was just the back, behind, the backstory of why I really feel like it's Megan. Like, she was my original theory, and this is what I think happened. So going back, they went back to Kylie's house, they got Tory, they're back in the car now. So they're arguing, then they pulled over, skirt. Now they're fighting. I think Kelsey is getting the best of Megan because Megan got that. I told you, she had that big golf ball knot.
Somebody cracked her in the head with that jump one time.
Hey. So I think as they're fighting, Megan grabs the gun out of her bag, which is in the front seat with her, which is green, which the gun was green. And Megan on the stand said she don't remember they were her bags or not. She said, I have a lot of bags. So not only are you not claiming the fight, you're not claiming your bags too.
EJ said he put the bags in the car on the trial.
Exactly, but he put them in the trunk, but she moved her bags to the front. So I think as Kelsey is getting the best of you, you pull, because you're drunk. Again, she's blackout drunk. So you pull the gun out and you just started firing it because you tripping. Now, Shawn Kelly says that he thought that they all were jumping Megan. So I'm like, okay, from your balcony, you don't know what's going on. You probably do think they're jumping her. But me, just being my logical thinking self, I don't think they were jumping Megan. I think if Megan had the gun firing it, you're tripping. So they're all trying to they're literally trying to stop you because you're firing the gun everywhere. You've injured your foot. We are trying to get your big 6'7" ass, drunk ass in the car. So wouldn't that make sense to the way that looks, that they're all like trying to get her in the car. And then he says when they finally was able to pick her up, he thought they were going to kill her and throw her in the river. I was like,
I mean, that's where his foreign shit came in.
Yeah, and I'm just like, what? So I'm like, okay, no, I think after she was injured, she crawled to the driveway like they said, they picked her up and put her in the car. So I think that Megan was the one that was firing the gun. Megan injured her foot on the street because she was fighting barefoot.
Wow.
I think her injuries look like a cut. And she was up twerking, literally
we all remember that.
The next week she was in the club, she was on a boat. She took the boat video down, but we have it. Well, I have it. She was in the club, and another thing that just didn't make sense to me is Megan doubled down on, how many feet did she say she was shot in?
Both of them, right?
Both of her feet, right? So she's in the club, but she has only 1 foot bandage. She only showed 1 foot on Instagram. What happened to the other foot, Megan? Did the wound fall off, or? Because the doctor specifically said he removed bullets out of both of her feet. But you only got 1 bandage. Everything is to that same foot. So I was just like, that doesn't make sense to me. She also said that she had to learn how to walk again. How did you have to learn how to walk again, but you're literally in the club and you're twerking on a boat? You have no crutches. I've seen people who get hurt for less and they're sent home with crutches. You don't get shot 5 times in your foot and all they gave you was a Band-Aid. That's pretty much what she had, was an ace bandage on. Yeah. So I don't know. It just all makes sense to me that Megan was the cause of all of this. And Kelsey said it in her diss track. She said, truth be told, we're all here because of you. And then she said, look what dick is costing you. So to me, it just drove it home for me. I was like, yeah, I truly believe Megan was the fault. I believe when she met with the police 4 days after, they pretty much said, we know the gun is yours. We know that you fired it. Like, we have all this. We have witnesses. We have video. We have all these things. I'm thinking they're pretty much laying it out. So Roc Nation, I feel like they made it go away. And it's like, all right, we have to figure out a way to put this on Tory. So then she comes out and names Tory, but only because he was talking about her. And that's why I feel like all this was literally a setup, because you had to figure out a way. How can I blame this on somebody else? I feel like had she just let it die out, nobody would have cared that you were on TMZ. It would have been in the blogs for a couple days, but like you said, I feel like it kind of would have went away. I feel like she made a bigger mess than what it had to be. And I just think she's probably never gonna have a day of peace. She said that she's healing, but I just feel like it's just something about that conscience. I just feel like it's probably just eating her alive.
Some people don't have a conscience.
All right, so I mean, I gave you my theories. I mean, ultimately, I believe in Tory's innocence, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a fan, because again, I was a Megan fan. I literally had no dog in the fight. I knew who Tory was, but I never was like a Tory fan. This case has definitely opened me up to his music. Daystar was the first album that I actually listened to all the way through. I've heard some of his chick tapes and stuff, but
album you listened to all the way through?
Yeah,
of his. Okay.
Yeah, because I didn't, I knew who he was, but so I'm not just, picking his side on some fan type of things. Like, I wholeheartedly, when I believe in something, I stick to it. I've lost friends. I lost followers. Like, people who I know in real life have legit blocked me, or they don't like me, or I'm a pick me. Like, all these different things that I've been called. But again, I've always agreed that Megan was the victim that night. She was injured. I just don't believe that it happened in the way that it was being told. And I don't believe that Tory, I think what Tory did wrong that night was being messy and really starting things between the girls. So whether it have been Kelsey or Megan, I definitely believe it was between them two. But yeah, so I mean, I hope for the best for him. You know, he has a strong case for his appeal. That probably won't get heard till next year. So he's pretty much just, you know, riding it out. So I'm still going to continue to follow the case. I appreciate you for having me and keeping up with it.
It's great to have you. We love to have you.
Yeah, so I like to say I'm pretty much a Tory case connoisseur at this point. Yeah. So anything you need to know about the case, I pretty much can like talk on it. So, but yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. You know. And anyone else who wants to keep up with me or the case or anything else that I have going on, you can follow me on Instagram at Tea with Tia. My Facebook is Tea with Tia. My Twitter is Real Tea with Tia. And my TikTok is T.with.Tia. But if you go to my Instagram, all my posts have all of my social medias tagged at the top. So you really can find me anywhere. But yeah, thank you for having me. I really definitely enjoyed this conversation.
The pleasure was all ours, and I will say this. When we initially heard the story of Tory getting arrested with Meg having being treated for injuries, of course everybody jumped to the conclusion Tory shot Meg. It was a very unfortunate situation. Meg tell her story. It did sound weird, and it's been 2 years later, and it did nothing but get weirder.
Yeah.
I'm happy that she's okay. And if Tory did not do it, we definitely want justice for Tory. If he did do it, it's unfortunate, but I do think he did enough of a crime. I mean, he did enough of time served to me. He should be able to come home.
Yeah.
So, and that's a wrap. Slack time.
All right, so this is messages for the Uptown Allies and the Tea Party. It is Slack time. Make sure you subscribe, like, and comment, and don't forget to hit the notification bell.
#UPTAF. Let's get it.